Hey Reddit.
Autopsy doctors of Reddit. What was the biggest revelation you had to a person's death after you carried out the procedure?
Okay, this is weird. For more videos, like and subscribe.
Assisted with a post-mortem when I was a student. Female patient died in her 40s. Her medical history had extensive complaints of abdominal pains. One doctor even referred to her as a hypochondriac, and others commented on apparent anxiety. Opened her abdomen and she had extensive scar tissue. She was absolutely massacred inside from endometriosis. She suffered for decades and never got referred for a laparoscopy. She didn't have fucking anxiety. She had a medical condition.
Honestly, I'm not even surprised by this story.
I feel like I'm going through the same thing. I've been trying forever to figure out my stomach pains, and when I asked about endometriosis, my ob-gyn flat out said, "If you had it, I'd just put you on the pill. You're already on the pill, so I'm not checking. I'm trying to rule things out and she's slowing down the process."
When my parents were in medical school, they attended an autopsy of a patient who had died in a car accident. Autopsy revealed that apparently this guy had survived a chest shot in Vietnam years ago that the medics left in rather than perform risky surgery. The accident had migrated the bullet to his heart and was ruled the cause of death.
Last casualty of the Vietnam War.
Not mine, but a doctor I used to work with. Back when he was in school. He would do his cadaver labs really late at night. To many people during the day. One time it was really late. Around 2 a.m. He was listening to his lecture on his headphones and he saw the cadaver's arm move, twitch. He thought it was just his mind playing tricks on him. Then he saw it again. Proceeded to run away in a panic. He told a few of his classmates what happened, but nobody believed him. Next day they had a group cadaver lab with the same cadaver. The arm twitched yet again. The professor did some digging and it turns out the patient's pacemaker was still fully functional and occasionally fired, causing the arm twitch. He was so relieved. He thought there was a zombie in there.
Literally.
And now I know how I'm going to prank my funeral.
My friend once cremated a lady, and when they pulled the table out there were 3 sets of forceps sitting there. Most likely she died in surgery, but I always thought it was crazy those were left in, and whatever metal they're made of clearly has a higher melting point than cremation temps.
After my mother was cremated, my sister was curious and wanted to take a peek at her ashes inside the urn. She opened it and said, "Oh, right on top of these fine ashes was the hardware from the broken ankle repair she had gotten years before."
May the forceps be with her.
My friend had to do an autopsy on a baby. The dad claimed she died after rolling off a couch. My friend found that the kid was slammed against a hard surface multiple times. Dad eventually admitted he hit the baby against the wall after she wouldn't stop crying. My friend had to quit that job cause it was so taxing mentally.
The sad part about this is that babies sometimes just cry. There is nothing wrong with them. They are tired and just can't sleep.
Jesus Christ. I hope your friend is doing okay.
While in medical school, we had to observe an autopsy and could assist. One of the lectures was to observe for head trauma. You do this by hitting the skull with a hard object, scissor or the like. A hollow sound is normal, but a dull sound indicates trauma. One of the other students did this exam and found a dull sound. The coroner had not yet himself examined the person and was very surprised, as he had not been informed by the police of head trauma. They then continued to examine the head and they found a gunshot wound through the skull. All of a sudden the person was at crime scene and they had to call the police again and leave the person as untouched as possible. I believe it was later confirmed that the person had shot himself, but it could have been a murder.
How do you miss a gunshot wound to the head?
Masters in forensic pathology here. You'd be surprised to know the number of people that have life-threatening issues that never went diagnosed and that they didn't die from. Seen an older guy who died of pneumonia in hospital. On autopsy the guy had both an enlarged heart and a couple of medium-sized aneurysms in the brain. Another guy in his 70s apparently came into the ER and had chest pain, then died shortly after. Dies of a heart attack but also had cancer. In less natural circumstances though, saw a guy who had been shot in the head a couple of times.
3 definite entries and a blown-out skull, but police only found 1 bullet. Couldn't find the other bullet in his head at all. Assumed the police missed it. Went on as normal with the autopsy until we got to the chest cavity. The other bullet was just chilling beside his lung. Turns out it entered the skull. Hit the inside. Ricocheted down his neck and into the chest. That was pretty wild.
It's so wild to me how on the one side, humans can be so resilient and survive horrible things. And on the other side just how fragile and quick life can be taken from us. 2 very different extremes. Thanks for sharing your perspective.
Supposedly, my grandpa had cancer when he died, but it was a heart attack that killed him.
I'm a veterinarian and sometimes I do necropsy, basically autopsy for animals, and one of the more notable case involved a prized Wagyu cow that died mysteriously. Wagyu cows are very expensive to rear and fetch a good price at the slaughterhouse. After cutting her open, I found metal wires extending from her stomach into her heart. It's what we call hardware disease. Apparently the cow decided that eating metal wires for constructing fences was a good idea. Normally the farmhands are quite good at keeping these hazards away from the inquisitive bovines, but I guess slip-up do happen from time to time.
Why are you eating that, dumb cow?
Holy shiz. I get freaked out when my cat finds a stray rubber band like produce rubber band and pukes up the chewed up remnants. I can't imagine any creature eating metal wire.